Packing these bearings, this is the stuff I like to use. These bearing kit came with this, and I'm actually just going to throw that in the motorcycle box so I'll have it in a pinch. This process really is, to me, just a manual labor. So I like to get myself a gob of grease. Make sure you got a rag handy. And essentially what I'm trying to do is get grease inside of that bearing so that when those rotate, there's a good bead of grease all over inside of there. Plus I want it to just kind of squeeze out of here just a little bit. I don't need grease on the inside of this because that is actually going to make contact with the steering stem, and that's going to stay stationary. So the thing that's going to be spinning are those rollers and that outer sleeve. So when you take these, if you just kind of pinch off a little bit of grease off of that gob you've got in your hand and then kind of roll it against your palm, it forces that grease up into those rollers. When you see the grease come out of this top side, then you can rotate it a little bit in your hand and continue the process. This is actually pretty quick. I know that they make tools for this kind of stuff, but well, this is how my dad taught me how to do it, and been doing it like this for years, right or wrong. So you can see right there that that grease is starting to ooze out of the top. I'm just going to rotate this a little bit and start pushing, and really I'm just kind of holding this bearing and pinching a little off and pushing it as I pinch it, and then it squeezes up in there. I'm going to do this to both bearings, and when they're both packed, this will be ready to put on the steering column. You can see, well, after you've done a few of these, the process isn't too horrible. It goes by pretty quick. Probably just as quick to do this as it is to set up a tool and try and assemble it and all that stuff. And then you can take some of this grease that's kind of oozing onto the inside. Don't be afraid of it though. I'm just going to rotate that through, and I'm just about done. That's kind of right where I started, right there. So like so. So that one's done. Just going to wipe that out, put that in my hand, kind of coat this outer surface here as well. You can see that that bearing is good and greasy. If you're not making a mess, you're probably not doing it right. And I've got grease coming out of the top, got grease all over along the bottom, and when that rotates, all of those rollers are set. So I'm going to put a little bit more here in my hand and finish this top one. See, I'm just pulling a little bit off that edge of that gob of grease, and I'm just forcing it in. Doesn't really have anywhere to go but inside. Something you don't want to skimp on, because repacking bearings is one of my least favorite chores to do. And you know, if you lose your place because you've kind of made a mess, you can just eyeball it and go back to where you think you need to be. You know, and for the most part, I can see that's coming up all the way around there, and if it's mostly the way through from the bottom, nothing wrong with taking a little grease and kind of working it backwards from the opposite side. So there we go. Those two bearings are packed and ready to assemble.